What's up, everybody? SM Christian here again to talk about languages. So this is going to be a podcast episode also. So I'm gonna put it up on my podcast and have it up here on my YouTube channel. So for those who are watching on my YouTube channel, tell me if you would like to see like evidence in the articles I research while I'm talking. But only for this video, I'ma just be talking about if children actually learn languages better than adults. So that's going to be today's topic. Okay, so should I give my opinion right now or at the end? I guess I'll give it right now and then restate it at the end. So my opinion is no, children do not learn better than adults, and I'm going to give you a few reasons why and why people think that children learn better than adults. So let's get into it. Before we start, children, and I'm looking at my notes here, children have a more dynamic brain structure, and it says a 2-year-old has twice as many brain connections as an adult, which means they can soak up information much faster. And that's a common reason why children are referred to as sponges, because they learn everything they see basically, or they see everything they learn, however it go. Now, children do have an advantage over certain things. They have an advantage over accent, because obviously if they grow up in an environment where that language is spoken, they will acquire the accent naturally and more easier while thinking about it. And they can also learn more languages at one time easier, so they can learn multiple languages at a time much easier due to the brain connections I mentioned earlier. They have twice as many, so they will soak up information a lot quicker as long as they are consistently exposed to that language. So that's pretty much it on the advantages of children. Besides that, they have, let me just list two more. They are built to learn from the connections, and they also really don't have any responsibilities, so they have a time advantage as well. When they wake up in the morning, they're learning whether they know it or not. And yeah, they have that time advantage too. So that's pretty much it for the advantages of children. So I want to state a fact that I found on this website. I'll have all the evidence in the description, but basically it says usually between 6 and 13 months babies say their first word, and usually between 18 months and 2 years they begin to say 2 to 4 word sentences, and that's referring to age, not time of learning. So between 6 and 13 months the baby will say his first word, and 18 months and 2 years 2 to 4 word sentences. So this is where I have to push back on whether children learn better than adults or not. Because do you know how much an adult can learn in 2 years while a baby is forming 2 to 4 word sentences? And I'm taking that as myself. If you look at my YouTube channel, I just put up a video, a year and a half of language learning. And for that year and a half, I've already reached the B2 level in Spanish. But when I get to 2 years, we'll see where my level is at. But I would highly argue that adults learn better and faster than children, especially if they have the right method. So another reason why children are seen as more fluent or can reach fluency faster than adults is because they're held to a lesser standard in terms of speaking and vocabulary. So if I, as a 19-year-old, I'm turning 20 years old this year, if I spoke like let's say a 10-year-old in a Spanish speaking country, or a 5 to 10-year-old native, I would still be seen as almost illiterate, almost like I can't speak the language just because I'm older. So they're held to a lesser standard as far as fluency goes. and they're also not expected to have the same level of vocabulary as an adult. So therefore, if a child speaks multiple languages at a lower level, they would be seen as fluent for the most part, compared to an adult if they have a, let's say, a B1 level in multiple languages. Although they can understand some things, they still wouldn't be seen the same as a native child. And no shame. Children have no shame when they are learning. I guess this can be associated as an advantage too. Children's learning is often painless, especially when they grow up with that language. That means they are not afraid to make mistakes, and they pretty much say whatever they want to say um, while really feeling bad about what they're saying, without being worried about if they say something wrong or not. So they have that advantage, and also adults expect mistakes from children. So every time a child says something wrong or incorrect, the adult usually corrects that child in a nice way, and the child doesn't think anything about it. However, if you're talking to another adult, many adults feel like they are not um, in a position to correct another adult. They feel like that's out of their place, so they will let the adult continue on saying bad things or a bad way of saying something. So that can affect the adult language learner's abilities, because they will be continually saying the wrong way of saying things. And also, they also have a shame factor. So many adults do not want to talk because they feel like they're gonna make a mistake, they're gonna look stupid, and yeah, that's how most adults feel. So here's one reason why adults may learn slower. For the most part, there's adults who've been learning a language for 10 years or so, and they still can't speak at this point. But I would just say that's the wrong method. Yeah, the wrong method of learning. Most of the time, we learn languages as adults through vocabulary lists and grammar, and we often think that if we don't have someone to teach us language, we won't learn the language. So we think we have to be in some type of class or have some type of tutor to learn the language. But yeah, when somebody finds their correct method of learning, they can learn very fast. Like I said, I'm a year and a half, and I can pretty much speak on most topics, understand most of what I'm hearing. So I already mentioned this responsibilities. Adults obviously have much less time. They have to work on their job. They have other responsibilities. So they won't be able to dedicate enough time or a lot of time to their language, or the same amount of time as a child would, because they are constantly learning through whatever they do. But I'm going to give a few advantages adults have over children. Adults have more experience. They have a point of reference. So for example, let's just say I'm gonna compare something. So I have this cologne next to me. Yeah, I have this cologne next to me. A child would have to learn this word because they have no other point of reference. Since I speak English, my point of reference obviously would be English. So let's say this is colonia in Espanol. I automatically have an association. Every time I hear colonia in Espanol, I'm going to think of some type of cologne, because that's my point of reference. And adults can do this for anything. I have this book right here, libro. Okay, in my head, I'm going to think a book, because that's my point of reference. Second, focus. Adults are more focused and self-motivated. I think that's the most important aspect of language learning, is being focused and self-motivated. And adults have this on lock compared to children. Children often want to give up with languages, especially, let's say the child is put into a school where they have to speak a different language, and they wasn't raised with that language. They will often want to give up. They wouldn't want to do it because it's hard. If an adult has a reason and a why, they will learn the language. My reason and my why is because I've been wanting to learn the language. I want to travel someday. So yeah, adults have that aspect on lock. And the last thing that adults have on lock is logic. Now, if you watch my channel, you would know that I don't really like grammar. I don't like to study grammar. I just think I will acquire it naturally from reading and other things. But let's say we're gonna talk about grammar right now. Adults have the logic to be able to apply grammar to a situation. So, for example, let's say we're talking about the third person preterite. An adult would be able to go in his or her mind, and think of what that response would be, compared to a child who would just say, usually just say the wrong tense, depending on how old they are. An adult would have that logic on lock, so they would know when to apply certain words to certain situations. But yeah, I don't want this video to get too long. Check me out on my social media, Instagram, my podcast, all that. So that's the end of this video, and that's my opinion on why adults actually learn better than children, and it's a myth that children learn better. So have a good day, everybody.